Welcome to the Stuff and Junk Show, where we share our opinions on random subjects from interesting news, social topics, pop culture, our likes and dislikes, things you've seen, heard, or read, what we did, and what we do. You know, stuff and junk. Hello, my name is Albert.
And this is Jiaming.
So the question here that a lot of people are bringing up this year is, does Disney have a problem, and a problem that they need to actually really take seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It kind of started off with the MCU stuff, with the Marvels doing poorly in the box office. Poorly in terms of like what they expected was more than what they got, right? And then there was a Variety article about Marvel being in shambles or whatever, right? So, Jiaming, your opinion, how is Disney doing?
I have a couple of points. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Do I feel like Marvel is in its prime? Have I had issues with Thor: Love and Thunder? Have I had issues with Secret Wars? Yes, that's yes.
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. So sorry. But do I think it's in shambles? No. Do I think it's kind of weird that everybody and their mom likes talking about Marvels and only get clicks out of them and stuff like that? Do I find that interesting? Yes, I do. Of course, some of it's based on my own algorithm. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But from what I can tell from my algorithm, everybody's a lot of people are pushing articles like, "Hey, this is my hot take on Marvel and money and all that stuff." You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, hey, it's like that Mean Girls quote. You know what I mean? Why can't you stop talking about me? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, we're obsessed with me. Well, that's a quote from Mean Girls, right? Yep. You know what I mean? So yeah, do I think that that's true? Do I think this is? I still love Marvel and not just Marvel, the MCU, but the comic books and the whole sci-fi of it all and stuff like that. But maybe my hottest take is like, hey, if Marvel is in trouble and but to me they have like 13, 15 years of goodwill built in.
Yep.
What do you call it? Goodwill built in, equity built in. What happens with DC and stuff like that? You know what I mean? I'm not mentioning this just to kind of deflect and stuff like that. But I'm thinking like, hey, what's Aquaman gonna do? If Aquaman does well, that's a good sign. You know what I mean? But if it tanks, just like some of the other movies they had recently, what's DC gonna do when they don't have that 13 years of worth of equity? I mean, they've had hits over in their connected universe, but nothing in the same scale as Marvel. It's not even close, right? So that's kind of my hot take too. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what's DC? What's the other comic book shared universe is gonna do and stuff like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of movie, the DC movies don't really have much to bargain with the audience because the MCU has set the bar, and DC doesn't have that, right? So even if they fail, people don't really think nothing much of it. Really, it's like, oh, a DC movie failed, oh, big deal, right? Because I mean, the real James Gunn movies are not coming out yet, so
right?
People are going to judge that until that comes out.
They have a built-in like a little bit of a buffer because whatever happens with Aquaman, if it's a hit, they'll say, it's wonderful. We'll just port that over to whatever James Gunn is. If it's a bomb, they'll just like, hey, it is what it is. You know, hey, we're rebooting anyway in a couple of years. You know, whatever. So, but they can play that. They can play around a little bit.
In terms of the Marvels movie, not the Marvels movie, but the Marvels, the movie. Yeah, it didn't make that much money compared to what they really wanted to do. But once again, this is anecdotal, but everybody that I know who have seen the movie liked it.
Yeah,
they enjoyed it. They're not. None of them are going to say. Neither of us are going to say it's the greatest movie ever or it's a great movie. But it can't be denied that we enjoyed it. The people who have seen it and the people who are poo-pooing it, coincidentally enough, have not seen it. So it does seem like it's like either like not really a propaganda or a marketing scheme, but there really does seem like a group of people, they just want Disney to fail, and that's, I think, part of the problem that's been going on.
And also at the end of the day, what do you call it? Was that the actress that played Miss Marvel? She was asked about she was asked like, oh, what do you think of the box office? Kind of like the drop and all that, and she said, oh, that's not my thing. That's Bob Iger's job. You know
exactly.
What I mean? Yeah, and I think that's 100% true for everybody that's listening to this podcast. Everybody that's kind of like on the Reddit threads or on this or whatever. It's not your thing. You know what I mean? Hey, on this podcast, we like to talk about it. We live in Los Angeles. We like talking about show business and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just fun stuff for us to talk about. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, at the end of the day, to me anyway, when I go to the movies, I need to enjoy. My primary concern is when that movie starts and when that movie ends, I better have a good time. You know what I mean? To me, that's all I can hope for. When I go to the movies. You know what I mean? All this other stuff it's just fun to talk about with you and other people. It's fun to suspect. And it's not my job. You know what I mean? I don't know, who cares? My only hope is actually just like, hey, they make enough money for them to
Keep
make
going.
another one. You know, make another one, make another TV show. You know what I mean? And also going back to the comic books of it all. Hey, they've been counting Marvel comics and other comics for dead for many years. You know what I mean? So this is quite what do you call it? A tribute to Marvel comics. You know what I mean? Remember in the '90s, Marvel comics filed for bankruptcy. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Right.
it's like it is what it is. It's not
Yeah,
that.
but Marvel back then wasn't even part of Disney, right?
Yeah, I know, but
think
you know what I'm saying.
I
It's
think
kind of a joke point. I'm not. It's not a serious point. I'm just
right,
saying.
right.
Yeah,
Uh,
it comes in waves, is what I'm saying.
I
That's a
guess
serious point.
I guess based on the conversation, I guess I should disclose that I do have professional ties with Disney the corporation.
Mhm.
So besides that,
Yeah.
I really think it is a Disney problem more than a Marvel problem, because I think
Mhm.
Marvel can survive on its own, even though Disney is the one who funds the budget for those movies. I just think
Mhm.
that the current state of movies in cinema nowadays, they need to go back to the budgets of how it was 20 years ago, not this
Mhm.
$200 million epics, right? They need to go back to the 60, $70 million sci-fi fantasy movie kind of
Mhm.
thing. I would cite off the top of my head, I would cite Serenity, which is the Firefly movie. That was made for, I believe, $45 million, right?
Yeah.
And looking at that movie, it looks perfectly fine for $45 million. So it looks better
Uh,
than
yeah.
Quantumania. I'll give you
Yeah.
that much.
I'll say this though. Number one, it's not my job. They can do whatever budget, whatever. They can do whatever they want. But if you ask for my hot take, it's along the same lines. If you look at the creator, that was $80 million.
Yeah.
It looks perfectly good, perfectly fine. It's awesome. And my other hot take as far as like budget, like what you should make, do more animation, man. Animation is fantastic. You know what I mean? Animation looks great and stuff like that. It's a truer adaptation of comic books than live action to me and stuff like that. I think we're at a place in America where we can appreciate animation to a degree as other cultures like Japan in particular and stuff like that. Animation. That's to me. That's where they should port some of that money and stuff like that.
Well,
And
speaking.
also,
Go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I just want to make one more box office point and stuff like that. Not specific to this year, but like in general and stuff like that. This is something that's kind of bothered me since I heard it on a podcast a couple years ago. This is a kind of an old point. What do you call it? When there's a podcast called Rewatchables. It's a very famous podcast. It's in general I love it very much. And so what they do is they go back and kind of rewatch old movies that we used to watch in the 80s and 90s and talk about it, how they've aged and stuff like that. So one of the episodes was dedicated to E.T. And one of the guys' point was like, hey, when E.T. came out in '82, it was in the theaters for like 10 straight months. And it was a top five money wise for many, many months and made X amount of dollars. And this is around the time where Doctor Strange, the sequel came out, right? And he said, oh, you know what? The Doctor Strange came out. It opened to 100 something million. But next week, you know what? It dropped like 70%, you know what I mean? As to making the point like, Doctor Strange is kind of like doesn't have the same holding power as ET. And to me, when I heard that, the more impressive feat is Doctor Strange and the multi. You know what I mean? To open any amount of of box office to those numbers, no matter what the drop off is the next week or the week after, is incredible. When ET came out in '82, we had 4 TV channels. You know what I mean? That's all we had for like disposable entertainment. You know what I mean? Things you can spend money on. It's either sports or like 4 TV channels and stuff. Nowadays, it's not even. It's crazy that any movie opens to any kind of significant box office. You know what I mean? Even with that drop, Marvels, it's an incredible, incredible number. You know what I mean? It's like, just think about it. How much effort, how much energy it takes for someone to go to the movie theater, spend that money when you have all the streaming, all the video games, everything that's at your disposal at home. So I think that's something people have to consider. You know what I mean? Any kind of success by any company, any movie company is incredible. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my other point.
Right, and to go with the whole thing with the budget and people watching it or not doing enough, there are 2 movies out right now or have been out and currently out, which is the Killing of the Flower Moon, right, by
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese.
Hmm.
Famously, I believe it cost $200 million, which is like the
Yes.
Marvels. It's not making
Hmm.
as much as the Marvels,
Hmm.
first off, but nobody's talking about that. And then you got also Napoleon, also another $200 million epic
Yeah.
made by Apple, and that looks like it's doing just as well or worse than the Marvels, but
Yeah.
nobody's talking about that either.
Mhm.
So it does seem like it is just people trying to pick on Disney, and
Yeah.
you mentioning that there's so much more competition with people's eyeballs.
Yeah.
And animation, by the way, Wish came out over the past weekend and
Yeah.
also did not do as well as they were hoping.
Mhm.
Because I think part of it too is because Disney Plus exists.
Mhm.
Because of the pandemic, because of people
Yeah.
getting into Disney Plus a lot and watching those animated movies straight to Disney Plus, like those Pixar movies, right? And it really doesn't encourage people to bring their family to the theaters anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, Encanto went through the same thing. Encanto was a modest hit in theaters, but
Yeah.
it didn't make a lot of money. But it was a huge hit on Disney Plus, and it
Yeah.
seems like now families, especially parents, are like, "We're just gonna wait for that Disney Plus release,"
Yeah.
and then that's about it. And so I
Yeah.
think Disney made a mistake by competing with themselves, and now they have to try to figure out how to work both of them together.
And also, since you brought up Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon, it's like, how do you want to talk about success, box office success, with the general audience? You know what I mean, if you're a variety Hollywood reporter, how do you want to break the stuff down for the general public? What I mean by that is like, hey, Napoleon, Killers of the Flower Moon, they both cost $200 million just to make, right? I'm just making up that number, but let's say $200 million each, X amount of dollars to promote, and then what revenue are you getting from those projects? You know what I mean? Put Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon, box office, and then Disney Plus. Is it going to really drive up your Apple Plus subscriptions and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Streaming, DVDs. How much money are you going to make outside of the box office? Now, for Wish and Marvel, okay, there's box office. There's also Disney Plus, which is a big deal, right? Disney Plus subscriptions, but also from there, you're still perpetuating the Marvel with Disney brand. You know what I mean? Now that Miss Marvel is kind of out there in the movie, you're talking about comic book sales, toy sales. Are you going to sell toys from Napoleon or Kills the Flower Moon, Albert? Do you know? I
Probably not.
Probably no, right? Right? You know what I mean? It's like how do you want to break this down? How do you want to discuss profitability and stuff like that? Or you know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? Because if looking at those two, if you give me either or, you know what I mean? Do I want to put my money or lose money with quote unquote lose money with Miss Marvel and Wish, or Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon? Because to me, Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon mostly sounds like, hey, the guy from Apple wants to stand on stage and get an Oscar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it
Same
sounds
thing
like
with
to me.
Netflix.
Yeah, a vanity project and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I don't think like he got it for what do you call it? The sign language movie,
Yeah,
whatever.
which doesn't cost that much money.
Right, but that's great. I think, but I think in his ego and his mind, it's not as sexy as hey, standing on stage with Scorsese. You know what I mean? Standing on stage with Ridley Scott. You know what I mean? Is that what's driving you to spend $200 million on a Napoleon movie? And how does a movie that gets shot in Oklahoma cost $200 million? Somebody has to look into that. By the way,
It's probably the CG actors in the battlefields, right? That's probably that.
No, talking about the Father Killer Moon. That's the one that's shot in Oklahoma. That costs
right, that's right.
That's a scam, by the way.
I mean, that's got to be all actors. Like, how much does Leo cost? I mean,
that's again, that's got to be a thing. Like, hey,
I guess
let's just say
the
let's
real question. But Jiaming, the real question there is, if it is $200 million for Killing the Flower Moon, how much did the Osage people get from that?
We gotta do a pie chart of that. You know what I mean? $200 million. How much did Leo get? How much did De Niro get? How much did Scorsese get?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Off the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I mean, I think, that's part of the process. That's part of the power of Netflix and Apple. They have cash flow that they can spend willy nilly if they really wanted to, right? Plus, these deals were made probably like 2 to 3 years ago, back when things were a little bit more stable, right? Or whatever. So now the question now is, 2 to 3 years from now, are we still going to be seeing Netflix and Apple spending this much money on movies that don't make that much money in the box office? I don't know. I really don't know.
And also zoom out again. I want you to zoom out and time travel at the same time. If I told you at the beginning of the year to predict the top 10 movies of this year, would you have guessed Barbie? You know what I mean?
Well, one of us did.
What was it? But still, Barbie at 1 billion, over 1 billion, something like that.
Yeah, not 1 billion.
Yeah. Also, like, what was that movie that came out? Freddy Got Fingered. Five Days at Freddy's.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Could you have
I
guessed?
knew that was gonna make money. I knew because
That's
that had a
like
huge following.
the thing is, who can predict box office like in general and stuff? Like, who could predict the strike kiboshing all the momentum that Barbie had and Oppenheimer had?
Yeah.
So, like, who could predict any of this stuff? Who knows?
I
Who knows
really
what's
think
going
there's
on?
a switch in the movie industry in terms of like in terms of like movie theaters. I think in
Mhm.
the for family movies they
Mhm.
gotta just go straight to video. I
Yeah.
really think it's moving that way because a lot of the family movies they don't do that well in the theaters anymore, right? Because
Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers.
See,
Mario
who could
Brothers.
guess this? Who could guess this
No, no.
stuff?
See, Mario Brothers moves into my next category.
Mhm.
Either uh a meme, it's either has already like a huge following prior to that, or
Yeah.
it's nostalgia.
Yeah.
Those seems to be the three things that really make money in the movies. Mario, you got nostalgia, and you got the meme thing with the Jack Black song, right?
I would also throw in, you know what? Make an hour and 30 minutes. Just get the turnovers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that works
An
too.
hour and 20 minutes, just turn it over and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy. You know, this is a video game that's been around for 10 years now. So you got people who are like adults now who are like, I want to watch that Five Nights at Freddy movie, right?
Yeah.
And you got that base that's already gonna go. So I think if you
Mhm.
release something that doesn't have like an actual following or a
Mhm.
reason for them to go see the movie, like a
Yeah.
meme or something, like Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer has no business making that much money, but because it went through the backing of the Barbenheimer thing, the
Yeah.
meme, it made all this money. So I think any movies that go into theaters need to have some reason for people to actually see it in theaters and make it an event for them to actually go, this is the reason why I'm watching this movie. And
I heard
Wish didn't really have that. Wish had a very traditional marketing campaign. Here's a new Disney movie from the creators of so and so, blah blah. That's it. That's all they had. Like, where's the gimmick? Where's the gimmick for people to actually
Yeah.
watch it? You know. And then the
And
Marvels, everybody was
Mhm.
all about like poo pooing on the MCU stuff now. So it's like, well, they're not gonna
Yeah.
go.
I don't know. I'm just going back to my original point. Say, hey, all I hope for is like when I go see a movie, is like, hey, make a good movie and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's all I can ask, stuff like that. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Like I
I mean, like my favorite movie of the year did made money, but didn't make that much money. Past Lives, you know, it's like it isn't like a blockbuster, but it made money, you know, and that's a really good movie. So I think
Mhm.
good movie by itself is not really the only thing. It really's gotta be.
I think
enough.
that's I think for the individual person, it's all you can hope for and stuff like that. As far as like the actual, like, you want to talk about the business, I don't know. At the end of the day, to be honest, I'm not. Other than the summer movie draft, I'm not that interested in the business aspect of it. I know I live in Los Angeles. I read about it and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like I said, as an individual, as a moviegoer, as a person, I can only go back to the idea like, hey, I'm just there for a good story and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I hope they make enough money to make another one, something like that. Like, you go into your point, you mentioned Past Lives is the best movie of the year. I just hope they made enough money for the lady to make another movie and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, very true, very true.
Yeah.
But going back to my original criteria about the fact that maybe Disney has a problem that they need to try to figure out. The reason why I came up with this idea for a podcast segment is because I was asking my niece what her favorite Disney character was. Now, keep in mind she's like 18 now, I believe, 17, 18, 17 or 18, 18.
Did she tell you I'm too old for this question? What are you talking about?
But anyways,
Dude.
no, seriously, that's the thing. Like before, it was almost like a given. Oh, her favorite character, Stitch. You know, get her Stitch merchandise. She'll be happy, kind of thing. And then asking her like last week, like, wait, what's your favorite Disney character? And she's like, I don't know. It's like, does it matter? You know, it's like people are kind of moving away unless you're like a little kid. Or like a Gen Xer who still is a man child essentially. You know, it's like who is Disney gonna be really for? It does seem like their base is kind of like spreading thinner.
Yeah, I mentioned it before. My nephew's 14 and a half, and he's definitely aged out of at least the Disney portion of all.
Yeah.
The last one I took him to go see as part of the Disney movie Thanksgiving was Encanto. He had no interest in seeing Strange World last year, and no interest in seeing Wish this year. He's aged out. Yeah, he still loves seeing the Marvels of it all and stuff like that, the Marvel movies and stuff like that.
Right.
But no real interest in seeing the TV show. But the Marvel stuff he's still into. The one that he's looking most forward to this holiday season, actually, Godzilla. Godzilla -1 is the one he's looking forward to see the most.
Wow.
So,
well, after this recording release, I should have seen it by then. But the thing is, though, is that they also have this whole culture war thing that's going on because of what happened in Florida. Republicans hate Disney also and all that stuff. Like the Disney stocks are also representing that because the stocks for Disney is like 50% of what they used to make like 2 years ago, and part of it too is because all these emotions that are targeting Disney, they want Disney to fail for whatever reason, So it does seem like this is getting pushed back, and I think they really need to stop thinking that they're king of the world and be like a regular company just trying to do well for what they're doing.
Yeah, but the thing is, at the end of the day, this all comes for these big companies. It all comes in waves and stuff like that. They'll have high points, low points. I remember as a little kid, they were on a high with Michael Eisner, I think it was.
Well, Michael Eisner turned the ship around. Prior to Michael Eisner, Disney was in trouble.
Yeah, and then it goes in trouble after he left in the early 2000s. Those anime movies were pretty bad, and then they turn around again. It just comes in waves and stuff like that. It is for these big companies. It's just like that. I don't think anybody's worried about Disney collapsing or disappearing from the map anytime soon. Yeah. If anything, I'm just waiting. I think we've talked about this in prediction episodes, but at some point, I think Apple will step in there and really be aggressive and buy one of these studios out. And I'm thinking if I was Apple, I would target Disney and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Well, they already have ties. They already have past ties. So there's that.
Yeah. Somebody's going to get, in the next 5 years, somebody's going to get gobbled up by Apple. All I know. You know what I mean? Either they bundle up Paramount and whatever BS they're doing and get bought out by Apple, or Disney gets bought out by Apple. Something's going to happen.
Warner Brothers is going to get bought out by Apple.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh. But all I gotta say is that I'm sure Bob Iger is regretting coming back to the company.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he like, I mean, not on top of everything else, he got really bad press during the writers and actors strike and stuff like that. But yeah. But what are you gonna do?
He should have stayed away. He left on top and then came back.
He's fine. I think the hundreds and hundreds of $1 million. I think he's fine. He's doing all right. Yeah. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, anyways, thanks for listening.
Yeah. So, what's the conclusion after all this? What was all this about?
There is no conclusion. This is an ongoing story. We are going to see how it plays out, and then we're going to see exactly how much the Fantastic Four and X-Men turns the ship around for the MCU. So we'll see. We don't even know if Jonathan Majors is still going to be Kang. Who knows? It's all out in the air right now. All right. Thanks for listening. You can find this podcast on Instagram and Threads at Stuff Junk Show. You can find me, Albert, also on Instagram and Threads at Albert5x5.
You can find me on Twitter, JIAMNGLOU.
Music has been provided by Gloomy June. Contact info, ways to support us, and everything else on the show notes found on whowhatwhereswhy.com. Before we go, let's give our 9 listeners some recommendations for this week. Jiaming.
I'm going to recommend something that's based on Albert's recommendation. A few weeks ago, he recommended a French movie called Anatomy of a Fall. And I saw Anatomy of a Fall. And for people who don't know, it's about a trial. It's probably the best legal drama I've seen. It's like the legal in France and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But my recommendation is not actually the movie itself. It's a great movie. It's fantastic and stuff. But from what I can tell, the case takes place in France, right? And apparently in the French court, when you're giving witness testimony and stuff like that, the defendant can actually have a back and forth.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And my recommendation is for us to completely revise our legal system to do this as well. You know what I mean? Because if I was on trial and if someone's giving eyewitness testimony, I would like to talk back in real time and say, you know what, that's full of shit. You know, that's not. You know what I mean? There's like a back and forth that I absolutely found fascinating. You know what I mean? So I think you do as well. Yeah, you did as well. So my recommendation is, we do that. We do what the French does in court and stuff like that. Yeah. There should be a back and forth in real time. There should be a discussion. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's not, you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. It's excellent. It's awesome.
The fact that if you're defended and there's some witness testimony that you know is bullshit, you can call them out on it there and then. You don't have to wait for your turn. You just go, I'm sorry, that's not true at all. It's like,
because I sat in a jury before, and as the kind of days go by, and there's no, I kind of, you zone out and stuff like that. I'm expected to remember any of this. No, do it in real time. Do it now. Do it live. You know what I mean?
I really think the way the U.S. court system works, where everybody takes their turn, yes, it's fair, but you're definitely not as engaged because you can't remember everything you just heard for the past 10 minutes before you move on to the next person. This one, it's an ongoing conversation that you can just keep up. It's like,
That's
it's
that's
amazing.
exactly the point. It's
Yeah.
a conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a conversation between the defendant, the prosecutor, the judge, whatever. And so it's also
Yeah.
more. It's much more organic, free flowing stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not static. It's a lively thing. It's a wonderful. If I'm assuming it's true. You know what I mean? I've obviously never been to French court and stuff like that. But I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's true and stuff like that. But
I'm assuming it's
it's
true. Yeah.
fascinating. It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Did you go to the website? There's an actual website that goes, did she do it.com, I think it's what it's called. Yeah, so I mean, the saying that spoiled the movie. No, anyways,
It can't spoil the movie. I don't want to be so esoteric about the movie and stuff like that and all this stuff. But it doesn't matter if you that part whether she's guilty or not. It's not it's relevant. It doesn't matter and stuff like that.
It's a fantastic movie.
I will say this though. This is not a spoiler because it's in the trailer and it's the best line in this movie and maybe the whole year. The good looking lawyer friend has the best line in the movie where she's accused of something and then she tells him flatly, hey, I didn't do it and stuff like that, and then he says, I can't tell you how unimportant that is, whether you did it or not. You know what I mean? It's still not the point. You know what I mean? And that's sort of the point. It's like what you can prove in court, what you could persuade, how persuasive your arguments, what evidence you can bring to make that persuasive. But that's the only thing that matters in court. Whether you did it or not does not matter at all, which is I thought was a great line.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
This is a great movie. It's
a great movie.
It really like it took me a while before I finally watched it, and when I finally did, I'm like, wow, why didn't it take me a while to watch this? This is a fantastic movie. This is definitely going to go in my top 5 of the year and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a very good movie.
Yeah.
The French and the French men have gray hair. That's the other thing I noticed in that movie. They have excellent hair in this movie.
And I gotta give kudos also to the prosecutor who has amazing bangers of one-liners.
I would be so upset. Oh yeah, that's a spoiler. But I would just say this: if I was at the end of the trial, after the verdict and stuff, I would be. If I was that guy, I'd be so mad. You know what I mean? He's like Michael Jordan scoring like 50 points in the playoffs and having that verdict come out. You know what I mean? He's like, come on, man, come on, come on, I crushed this. Come on, man.
All right,
so good, very good.
My recommendation for this week is actually spawned off this podcast / video that I listen / watch. It's the podcast. The program is called Open to Debate, and the debate that they were doing on is wokeness killing comedy.
Okay.
So that discussion by itself is worth listening to. I think out of the 3 people, the moderator and the 2 debaters, the one person that you would probably recognize is Michael Ian Scott. But Michael Ian White. I'm sorry, Michael Ian White. I think he was from the Daily Show. Oh, Michael Ian Black. Oh my God, from White.
Oh,
to
there,
Black.
I know. Yeah,
Scott White Black. Anyways,
you got there.
Yeah, I got there eventually. Yeah. So it's an entertaining discussion. But the one thing that I got from that is my recommendation. It's a reminder, right? So you hear all these articles and stories about, oh, so-and-so movie would have been made in today's modern era, like talking about like Blazing Saddles or White Chicks or Tropic Thunder, right? But one thing that I didn't really occur to me until it was brought out in this debate, that also applies to stuff that are released today. There's stuff released today that would never have been made years ago.
Oh, you mean movies directed by chicks?
Like that. Like, for example, the movie Plan B, which is all about like teenagers trying to get an abortion. That never would have been made years ago, right? Barbie the movie would never have been made years ago. Yeah. And I will say, the Marvels would never have been made years ago.
Oh, the one where the 3 leads are women and the supporting actor is a black man
and a Muslim,
directed by a black woman.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like if you go to Google and type in like what wouldn't have been made today, there's so many lists about like, oh yeah, that movie wouldn't be made today, blah blah blah. But the truth of the matter is, there are more movies being made today that would never have been made years ago, and that's something people need to remember.
Yeah, it reminds me of this tweet that it was just a few years ago. There's a writer of the X-Men, and he's friends with actually Mark Bernardin. He's been on the Fat Man Beyond podcast. His name is last name like Stentz or something. I forgot his full name. Anyway, but he has a main writing credit for X-Men First Class. Anyway, so a few years ago or a year ago, he tweeted like hey, this are the movies that were released on this day, like 1982, like 30 years ago, whatever. And so he lists them all, and they're all kind of like bangers, like Ghostbusters. I'm just making, I don't know the details, but let's just say it's Ghostbusters, it's Weird Science, and all opening us on this weekend and stuff like that. You know what? Look at this. This is cinema and stuff like that. This is a rich sort of like what do you call a different kind. You know what I mean? There's everything for everybody. You know what I mean? A
Yep.
family movie, a sci-fi, blah, blah, blah. And somebody, the guy, I forgot his name. He did the Blacklist or something. He's a well-known guy. Franklin Leonard, Black. He's a really cool dude and stuff like that. Anyway, he retweeted and said, "Oh, you know what I see when I see this list? Straight white dudes directing these movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so when people behoon about it, like we'll have the good old days and the Ghostbusters, the Porkies, and whatever, you know what I mean, Stripes, whatever, you know, Groundhog, you know what I mean. Keep in mind, those were all directed by straight white guys. You know what I mean? And you know, and also looking at the list, and you know, I forgot what year it was, but it was like there was a heavy focus on sort of like Disney movies in that thing that he mentioned, and I said I did a mental thing in my head like I think Turning Red, which came out that year, the tweet came out, I was like, I think Turning Red beats all these movies. You know what I mean? It's better than all these movies you listen and stuff like that. And I would say to what your point earlier, I think Past Lives,
Yeah. Past
would
lives.
would be like 99% of these old kind of nostalgic movies and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's my recommendation. Realize
Yeah.
that fact, people. Realize that fact.
Yeah, I think we're living a time where it's whether you like it or not, it's the most inclusive, the most diverse, the most kind of like open to anybody. Not anybody can make a movie, but you know, opportunity. There's more opportunity out there. Is all I'm saying.
And we even have religious movies that are making box office numbers. Come on, people.
Yeah.
We live in an era where any movie could be successful. So, all right. And I would like to do a shout out to a friend of the podcast, Josiah, who is releasing a comic book on Kickstarter, and it is called Young Zombie: Tales from the RIP. Right. So the tagline is really short here: the story of a zombie boy and his dog. The dog is not a zombie, just a boy, but they might both eat people. Right. So
There you go.
he's launching this on Kickstarter. I'll put the link in the show notes. You guys should check it out. He's also promoting this at LA Comic Con. So if you swing by, tell them you heard it from us. You know. But yeah, Young Zombie: Tales from the RIP. Check it out. All right, there we go. This was episode 723 of the Stuff and Junk Show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, this podcast has been a Who Was Worthwhile production.